Hey everybody. So, wanted to do something a little different, kind of share unscripted, nothing that is, planned, and kind of my journey, my journey in the aviation world. And so, I wanted to share kind of how it all got started, and I think a lot of you are trying to get there and you don't know how. And maybe you have some stumbling blocks, and that's okay. I think we all start somewhere. So I wanted to share a little bit about why I got started, and it really boils down to way back in the day. I'm 46, and way back in the day, I decided that I wanted to fly. And I wasn't sure how, but I knew I really actually wanted to fly fast movers. I mean, you see fixed wing back here and stuff, but it all started with fast movers. It started with the idea that my brother was a Marine. And when I was young, I had these books. I had jets, a jet book of all about all the jets that were in the military and all the ships in the military and all the aviation assets in the Army. I had these books, and I would just drool over them. Imagine. It's kind of like this one over here that it's buried. I have an aircraft book over here that you can't see over my shoulder, but I just drooled over these books, and as I grew up, 12, 13, 14 type of thing, and somewhere in that age, I attended a church, and I was able to go and tour a facility that introduced me to the world of Army aviation. My church mentor, if you will, he took a bunch of us young men down there, and we were able to tour the facility and see Apache helicopters and sit in the cockpit. This is a long time ago. I don't think they'll let you do that anymore. Anyway, I sat in the cockpit. I sat inside a Black Hawk, and I was just in awe. And so, I decided then that was what I was going to do. But, here's what's happened sometimes in our goals is that we tend to, that's what we want to do, and then we kind of get distracted. And so when I was young, I got distracted. Girls, sports, etc. And then I left on a 2-year mission for my church. And I went out and served and taught people about Jesus Christ. And that was epic. I loved it. And when I came home, I got back into college, and I thought, I'm good at computers. As you can see, I have this awesome setup. I'm good at computers, and I think that maybe I should go into computers because the income potential is huge, and maybe I should do some studies with computers. And so I dive headfirst into computers, and I meet my future wife, and we get married. So fast forward like 8 months into school, we're poor, we're trying to figure things out, and guess who knocks on the door? A Army recruiter. And everything from my previous life kind of flowed back. I want to become a Apache helicopter pilot. And here's my experience with sitting in a Apache, and a quick experience that happened with that gentleman that took us to see these amazing aircraft. He takes us, and afterwards, as we're driving home, it's like an hour drive home, he tells me, we're talking about how cool it was, and I said, one day I'm going to fly one of those. And he told me, and I still remember to this day, he says, it's not for everybody, and it takes a lot of work. And I said, well, I'm up to the challenge. And so, but I got distracted, and I did other things in life, and then a gentleman, G.I. Jones, pops into my life and introduces me to an opportunity to pay for college. And so, I thought, this is awesome. I won't have to wash cars for a living for a while anymore, and I can go and do other things. And so, my wife and I to talk about it, and we're on board. And so I start the full court press of becoming a Army aviator, a helicopter pilot. I want to be an Apache pilot. And so I go off and I do everything I need to do all through college. And at the very, very end, as everything's looking like I'm going to be, graduated, they're trying to force me into computers. And I'm like, I'm not having it. And so, like, towards the very end of my career as a college student and as an ROTC cadet, I had the opportunity to go take the AFAS test. And so the AFAS test at the time was a flight aptitude skills test that the military gave, and I failed it by just a fraction, like 1 point. And I don't know what it was, why I failed, probably lack of study, but I failed. And so I thought, it's not going to happen. I'm going to be a signal officer. And I try, checking, I'm doing everything I can to find another opportunity to take the test. And I'm digging. And finally, I got my professor of military science to, let's go take this test again for you, and if that's what you want to do. And so I go and take the test again, and this time I pass. But it wasn't just a pass that got me the opportunity. So I walk out of the testing center, and there is a full board colonel. He ends up being the state aviation officer for the National Guard unit that I wanted to be a part of. And I meet with him. I seriously go in his office for like an hour and a half. And as we just talked about hunting and fishing and all types of stuff, and we chat about that, and my professor of military science is looking for me at the time. He doesn't know I'm in this office. I'd come out of the testing area and gone into the office, and I come out, and then this colonel marches me over to the battalion commander's office to meet him, and he says, meet your newest second lieutenant. And I was like, holy crap, this is crazy, right? I'm in the right place, right time type of situation. And so after I go, and I go back to school, and my professor of military science is like, what the heck, you just disappeared. And I was like, I did disappear. I was talking to a full bird colonel and a lieutenant colonel and working on my future. And so lesson learned is persistence. So persistence. Sometimes you got to take matters into your own hands. You have to persist. And then meeting the right people, networking. Who do you know in the aviation industry? Who do you, these are all concepts of, persistence and fortitude and being at the right place at the right time sometimes. And then who do you know, the networking. So these are all concepts that get you into the door of aviation. Okay. And so after I graduate, the military was still trying to push me into signal. And somehow I have no idea, but at the day I commissioned was the day I pinned on my rotor wings, I got ready to go to flight school. And during that time, I had like a few months time. I was working, doing IT type of work because I was, again, a computer guy. And I thought, I really need to get into aviation. I don't know what else I should do, maybe. But all I wanted to do at the time was fly an Apache helicopter. That was it. I didn't want to fly a fixed wing. I didn't want to fly a Diamond. I didn't want to fly anything else at the time. I had fully tuned in, I'm going to be an Apache helicopter pilot. Okay, and so I left for this work, and like day one of the training, on the job training, I get a phone call, and I'm not supposed to take personal calls, but I'm like, I got to take it. It's the Army calling. And so the guy's like, no. I'm like, no, it's the Army calling. I got to take this. And so I excuse myself. I go out of the training, and they a whole rigmarole. If you didn't do the training, you're going to get, we're just going to, you're not going to get the job. And I'm like, I'll be fine. And so I go take the phone call, and they said, we need you to be ready in like, this date and this time. And I'm like, dude, that's not very long, but plenty of time to get ready and everything. But I just started a new job. And so all this is compounding, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, just got a new job. Job doesn't matter. I really want to fly an Apache. I'll figure it out, And so I tell the job, hey, this is my date, and we're going to go on this date to Fort Rucker, Alabama, and I'll see you when I get back if the job still appeals or whatever. And so I go to Fort Rucker, Alabama, which is now Novacell, Fort Novacell. And so I go to course, and it's rigorous. It's ridiculous. 1 week I'm waking up at 3 a.m. to go to flight line, and the next week I'm waking up at 6 a.m. to go to PT and go to academic type of stuff, and then it flip-flops and it flip-flops and it flip-flops. The entire time I'm at Aviation War Center for the Army, the schedule constantly changing, and so it's rigorous, and it was rough. I mean, I got some of the worst, like, dry heaves. They thought I was sick. I'm not sick. I just got nerves because I'm constantly changing my schedule. I'm drinking from a fire hose. Every aviator that's ever experienced it has drank from this fire hose, and somehow, some way, we push through it. We push through it. You know, the majority of us push through it, and so it's just a personality type. And so I become I get through my initial entry rotary wing. And I start my Apache transition training, my what they call AQC. And so I'm going through the Apache transition or Apache training, and I start in academics, and I pass all the emergency procedures and all the stuff that you're required to learn and grow in and into. And the cadre walks in and says, I need all of the National Guard and all the reserves to stay, and every active component leave, or something, or maybe it was vice versa. So we all went out in the hallway, and we get this news that they at the time the quotas were messed up for active component versus National Guard and reserves coming through the Apache course, and so we were all going to get put on hold, and they were going to fill up this Apache course with active component because they were behind on numbers. Awesome, taking care of business. I commend them for taking care of business. So I went on hold, but it was an indefinite, and they didn't know when I would be back, or my other cohorts would be back into class. And so we began to kind of complain a little bit to our states, because we're state driven National Guardsmen. And next thing we know, a bunch of us are all in the Black Hawk course. And so we're a UH-60 course. And that was nuts because we just studied so much information to become an Apache pilot. And now we have to study all this stuff in a week. 1 week. That's all they give us, 1 week. Be prepared to take a emergency procedures and a limitations test and all this information that we had to absorb. And so for about a week, all I did is just study. And I go in and I ace this exam. And so my study method is write it down. And you're saying it at the same time. Write it down. And you start leaving words out, and flashcards didn't work for me. It was write it down until you could write it down without even making a mistake. And because all your tests were kind of open-ended tests, or you might fill in a blank. And so anyway, I get into the UH-60 Blackhawk. I go through the course. We, everything is fine. I graduate through grace of God in a lot of ways, and an amazing wife and supportive young kids that got rid of their dad every day so I go study. So I get through that training, and I come home, and at the time our Blackhawk unit had just left for a tour in Iraq, and so I volunteered. It says, hey, I'll catch up. If it's something you want me to do, I'll catch up. And so they talked about it, and next thing I know, I'm going to catch the next plane down to Arizona and go fly, get transitioned into the Apache, and so that's what happened. So seriously, like 3 months later, I get transitioned to go to the Apache course. And so I go back and I cordon up everything UH-60, and I go through another course. And I have some great friends from that course. We had a blast. We had so much fun. But 3 months in the Arizona desert, and man, it was a scorcher from February through May or whatever it was. And anyway, so same concept. Drink from a fire hose. You're getting type rated basically in a extremely adept helicopter, and it's insane. Okay, so persistence again. Put the blinders on. All this other nonsense over here, you gotta lock in. And so you lock in. This is all you study, and you go take this another limitations test and emergency procedures test, and you take all that, and you're standing up and reciting stuff in class. And if you get it wrong, it was just chaos, right? And so But it was a great experience overall, and I passed that. So I come home and I'm an Apache pilot, right? So I got to get progressed into levels of readiness, and so I start flying a bunch with different instructors, and that was amazing. I had some of the most awesome instructors. The Idaho Army National Guard is who I flew for, and I loved it until I didn't. And I think what happens is sometimes we think it's everything we want it to be, and then there's some things missing, and so some things kind of went amiss, and I was, I elected to take my toys and leave aviation completely. And for 10 years, I left aviation. I went and just focused on IT, made a lot of money, did really well, but I was missing flying every day. I lived next to an airport. Like right behind my house is an airport, and I saw helicopters and planes come in every day, and I'd hear them, and I'd go I always call myself a kid in a candy store because I go look in the window at all the candy, the airplanes and the helicopters coming in, right? And so I'm at work, and I'm kind of just like, man, I'm flying a desk. I'm not enjoying myself, and I need to do something different. And so in 2022, I had a year, and it had been a good year. I kind of changed into a new job. I was teaching cybersecurity, and it was amazing. I worked for a national laboratory, and teaching cybersecurity, and I had a great team, but there was still something missing, right? I was that kid in the candy store watching airplanes, and I was like, I need to fly. And this is the last shot, if you will. Career 2.0, as Trent says on his YouTube channel. So I elect to come home and kind of talk to the wife. We talked about it a little bit, but I hadn't really made any actions. And so after a bad day, kid you not, bad day, I came home from work and was kind of frustrated, and my son was down here in this very room, because this used to be his room. It's now my office. But in this very room, he was in here playing video games, and I came home and went to go sit at my desk out in this other room over here. And as I came in, he'd been playing video games all day, hadn't really left the room, and I was pretty frustrated. And I came in here as a dad to get after my son. And right outside this door that you can't see, I had a moment of pause, and call it a revelation, call it whatever you wanted to call. So I had a moment of pause, and that moment of pause said, you know where you need to go, take him with you. And I was like, what? And I kid you not, I walked into this room, my kid's sitting about right where I'm sitting right now, and I looked at him and I said, Dallas, I'm leaving the lab, I'm going to go fly airlines. You can either grab my coattails and come with me, or you can stay down here and play with your dumbass friends, but not for long. Because basically I'm going to kick him out, right? And so, sorry for swearing there, but that's exactly what I said. And I turned around and I walked back out the door and went and sat down. And a few minutes later, after he'd finished his game or whatever, he came walking out. But he was looking like his eyeballs this big. And what? And he comes out and he asks, are you going to quit the lab? And I says, yeah, I am. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to figure out how to get to the airlines. Okay? And so that night, he comes home. I tell him, I says, I need an answer. And so he says, can I think about why I have to work tonight? Can I think about it? And I said, sure. And so he goes to work and kind of talks to his coworkers, and they told him he'd be crazy if he didn't do this. And so he comes home and says, I'm in. What do I need to do? I don't know how to get there. I said, I have some ideas. And so we booked tickets to the Rotor to Airline Group. We got tickets to the conference, and we got, flight down there, and which I almost missed, by the way. Crazy, but a whole nother story. Anyway, so we fly, my son and I, suits, ties, everything. We fly down to Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, and we entered the conference and had a blast. We watched people speak. We had all these opportunities to meet and greet and talk to others, and so on the last day we were gonna leave, and we decided. We both felt that we should stay and we should talk to, we should go see the SkyWest presentation. And so we go into the SkyWest presentation, and it was, kind of like all the others, sell why you want to work here, right? And And after it was all said and done, everybody just kind of out the door. There's seriously 250 other aviation enthusiasts want a job that are sitting in this room, and they just bolted out the door. But I felt impressed that we needed to stay, and so my son Dallas had got up and walked out the door with the rest of the crowd, and he come peeking back in, and I'm standing there next to the captain, and I saw him out of the corner of my eye, and I wave him in here. So he drags all of our stuff because he'd taken all of our stuff, walked out the door. And he comes in and stands next to me. And when I got an opportunity to chat with this captain, I said, Captain, nice to meet you. I'm Eric. This is my son, Dallas. He's 0 hours. How does he become you? Where does that start? And so I kid you not, for like the next, 3 hours, we stood in the hallway talking to this gentleman. And it was an amazing experience, and I stay in contact with him to this day, and I'm so grateful for him. But he set the vision for me and my son to be on the flight deck together. And so he just, sorry. So we've been going at it for now 2 years. 2 years this month, right? And I have a conditional job offer with the airlines, and he is starting his certified flight instructor next week. And so we've been on this journey together. Of course, my wife pushing me forward, keeping me set on my goals, and dang it. And so you can tell I'm passionate, and I'm on the right track. I just need you to know, I need you to know that you can do this. It doesn't matter if you take out a loan. It doesn't matter if you Part 61 and pay as you go. But if you want to do this, you'll figure out a way. And all my career, I figured out a way. I stepped away from it, and I figured out a way. And I've been able to meet the right people. And my story for making it through flight school, fixed wing flight school, and building my hours, I'm going to share that because I think you want to know it. But my point is that stay in the books. I got books back here. Stay in the books. Find wisdom. Find people that will help you get there. Because if you don't, you'll be sitting here in a basement not knowing how to get there. My son was fortunate he had me to kind of guide him. But there's going to be a day that people will look to him to guide them. And so I'm grateful for all my friends I've made in the aviation career field. I'm grateful for my friends that have propelled me and checked on me this entire time. It's been amazing. I have an entire story, the 2-year trek, a little less than 2-year trek, I want to share with you. And so stay tuned. There'll be another video in regards to my flight school experience and how I got through it. And it took me a lot longer than Trent. So if you follow Fly with Trent, hey, man, that guy's a stud. Man, I'm so excited for him. He starts class in like 5 days, and I'm just waiting on a class. And so, anyway, I've been with you for about 20 minutes. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you tuning in. So if you like what you see, like and subscribe. Make sure that you come back and visit because I've got more to share, and I think you're probably going to see a lot more aviation from me. So take care, guys. Bye.